Folks in Vietnam call these garlic snails, believing their meat carries a natural garlicky aroma, and they double down on that by stir-frying them with real garlic. A punchy blend of fish sauce, sugar, chilies, and lime juice join in. Finally, crispy pork rinds join the party, adding a crunchy finishing touch.
All right, folks, right here we have our final product, the bonnet snail, all fried up. Here's what I love. The shell is literally flavored. You can lick it and have an acid trip, like licking a frog. Not really, you'll just get a little bit of a taste of garlic. This has a pretty big body, and you may not be surprised to know that each of these guys cost $2. It smells like garlic, and it smells like the pork rinds that they've also paired with it. I'm gonna pair these two together. That is good, but that is a big, meaty mouthful. Today we started with a tiny morsel of a snail. Now we're getting into the big boy meat. What? Is this 2 for 1? I found twins. Okay, I think the chef was a little bit careless here. I'm pretty sure he put 2 snails in one shell. It's greasy. It tastes of toasted garlic. It's a little bit sugary. It's salty. It's delicious. It's a wonderful combination. And that's 10 out of 10.
From the tiny button tops to the giant 7-pound specimen waiting for me at the end of this journey, snails are usually recognized by their spiral shells, but our next 2 candidates break that rule. Introducing the snail you never knew was a snail.
Right now I'm gonna reach my hand inside this tank of live seafood and attempt to retrieve it. There's fish, there's halibut, there's other shellfish. Come on, buddy. Now, these guys are notoriously difficult to get off of anything. Really, what you need is a crowbar or a spatula. Come on. Oh, there we go. Let's just take a ride to the top and bloop. Just like that. Jade Tiger Abalone. Now, this thing is a beauty. It has no spiral shell, it has no slime trail, but according to science, this is classified as a snail. Oh, look at it move. It's trying to escape, but it's stuck in its shell. Where can you go, buddy? Where can you go?
The Jade Tiger Abalone is a product of the South Australian Sea, yet the recipe here reminds me of something I've tried in Japan.
The abalone, when you take it out of the shell, it has a big gland. That's its digestive stuff, including its excrement. It's all in there. And here, they're using it as a flavoring agent. Recently, they did something similar when we were traveling in Japan. They used butter and sake and the abalone poop and made a delicious brown sauce. When you look at that color, does it give you feelings?
Not good feeling.
Here, the sauce has a soft, creamy tone that looks much more promising, though the way it tastes is still in question. But before it gets that intriguing dressing, the meat is sous vide for 4 hours with chicken stock and lemongrass. Next, it hits the grill, fueled by straw, for a smoky kiss. Then it's sliced and tucked back into its shell. In comes a creamy mix of abalone liver, butter, cream, garlic, onion, and chicken stock. Finally, a small bundle of kumquat zest seals the deal.
Can we please talk about this ceramic plate that looks like a pillow? This is astounding. Whoever made the Michelangelo, this is even more impressive. Abalone feels tender to the touch already. I'm gonna pick it up and toss it back. That's working for me.
Light it up, light it
The
up.
abalone itself, pretty tender overall. It's got a nice density to it, but let's talk about that sauce. So I thought that liver gravy was gonna be a little bit more briny or intense, but it's not. It's just got like a nice, subtle, savory creaminess to it. And that, when it's paired with this kumquat zest, it tastes actually delicious together. The zest is so zesty, it's very citrusy, it's very bright. That liver gravy and that kumquat zest, they pair together like Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. Those guys should do another movie. They're old now. Oh, that means I'm old.
At $5.60, the Jade Tiger Abalone isn't exactly cheap, but our next variety costs over 3 times as much, and for good reason.
Snail number 9 on our list, coming all the way from South Korea, the black lip abalone. And if you're wondering why they call it that, well, just take a look at this. Oh, it's wild because it is such a firm, dense meat. You put your finger on it and you can like leave your fingerprint inside. What's amazing about these guys is that they come all the way from Jeju Island. That is like Korea's Hawaii.
These suckers are no easy catch. They dwell deep beneath the waves and are handpicked by extraordinary divers, like the ones I met in Japan. These badass women are in their 70s, and they dive without any breathing equipment. All that effort adds to the price. But is the flavor worth it?
When it comes to preparing these guys, they can either be steamed or grilled. But today, we're gonna be eating them raw.
The chef rinses the abalone while scrubbing it with salt to eliminate any slime. He detaches the meat from its shell and organs, then repeats the rinse and scrub action, this time with lime. Now it's ready to shape-shift into slices. The shell, lined with shiso leaves and radish, becomes its final resting bed.
Right here we have a nice tray of dipping sauces. Here they have a soy sauce that's been infused with truffle. On the side of it, some chopped wasabi stem, and then we have a mound of enough wasabi to kill a freaking horse. Now, before I taint the flavors of the black lip abalone, I just want to try it straight up. We have a thick piece of raw abalone that looks like it's gonna be super crunchy and hard. That's nice. The abalone itself has such a nice natural sweetness coming from it. You know, sometimes you eat these seafoods raw and you're like, oh, it tastes like wet air. Not this. This has plenty of flavor. It's subtle, but it's sweet. But what happens when you take that subtle sweetness and you pair it with soy sauce infused with truffle? Oh. That's good. Savory, a little bit sour too, and plenty of truffle flavor. All of that paired beautifully with the abalone. Meanwhile, we have this right here. This is what I'm told is called the wasabi stem. Let's try it out. I'm scared. Oh, that's really nice. It's salty, it stings, it gives you a little bit of a hit in your cerebellum. It has that sting or that punch of a horseradish, but with more layers of flavor. This is gonna pair beautifully with this abalone. That wasabi hit brought me to the edge of my consciousness like doing too many balloons, and I'm not talking about helium.
Our last 3 snails are 2-for-1 treats, dinner on the inside and desk decor on the outside. But will their flavor be as striking as their shells? Time to find out, starting with the thorn conch.
Come take a look at this medieval bad boy with a body of armor. You can see these giant thorns on each side helping to protect it against predators. But it couldn't be helped against the ultimate predator, woman. You thought I would say men? No. Ladies. They're very predatory. Right now you can see it's kind of sticking its tongue out at us. Ugh. It's closed off to us, but I want to peel it out. I want to show you to the world. Not interested. All right, this snail is a bit of an introvert. Quite literally.
Lemongrass, ginger, and boiling water kickstarts the thorn conch presentation. This sea snail was once nestled deep in a reef off Vietnam's coast, which makes its current situation rather uncomfortable. The chef frees the meat from its shell, slices it, and tosses it into a mixing bowl with green mango, shallots, carrots, chilies, and Vietnamese coriander. A vibrant dressing of fish sauce, sugar, lime juice, and garlic brings it all together.
Right here we have a thorn conch salad. If your doctor is telling you to eat more salads, probably he doesn't mean this. On the top we have fried onions, we have peanuts, we have lots of texture. But beneath and around the edges, you can see nice slices of that thorn conch. I want to try one of these plain before I try the whole salad together. Let's give it a shot. Oh yeah, oh that's good. It reminds me of octopus sashimi that's been cut thin, it's already been boiled. It has a bit of a tough, rubbery bite to it. But it's so fun to chew on. Wow, there's so many treasures within this salad. Right here we have the poop sack of the snail. I'm gonna take it home and give it to my wife and child. I am a provider. Back to the salad. Right here, I really want to bring all those ingredients together. We have that unripe mango, the onions, the snail itself, all that sauce.
Don't need to tell me what I already know. A broken smile.
It's so refreshing. I can taste aromatic herbs. I taste the fruit. And then there's just a ton of different textures in here, from the shredded up unripe mango to the onions to the peanuts, of course, to that rubbery and chewy snail.
$23 for a salad and souvenir? That seems like a steal. But our next snail isn't nearly as affordable. At $120 a piece, it's not the most expensive snail of the day, but it's definitely the biggest.
Introducing the Mellow Mellow. First of all, this guy, heavy, nearly 10 pounds. Second of all, absolutely brimming with meat. Their meat is so plentiful that it's just spilling out of their shell. All of this, edible. Editors, spank sound effects.
The The Mellow Mellow roams the coastal waters of Southeast Asia, and it's a prized catch for local fishermen. In addition to its abundant meat, the shell alone can fetch over $20, and once in a while, it even makes a pearl.
The Mellow Mellow is considered a luxury ingredient. Oftentimes, after cooking, the meat is sliced in and it's put in a variety of dishes. Today, we're going to be eating it in a Mellow Mellow curry.
After steaming for 2 hours with lemongrass, ginger, garlic, lemon, salt, and wine, followed by an icy plunge, the meat finally lets go of its grip. The snail is then sliced thin, poached again, and set aside while the curry base comes together. In a wok, oil is heated and infused with ginger, garlic, shallots, and chilies. Dried shrimp and curry leaves go in next. Then comes fermented bean sauce, curry powder, and wine. Now, the star of the dish, the Mellow Mellow meat. Chicken stock, oyster sauce, dark soy sauce, and light soy sauce add more diversity to the flavor. Okra and shallots offer some freshness, while a cornstarch slurry thickens the sauce. Finally, a splash of sesame oil.
Right here, we have a type of curry that you won't find anywhere in India. Let's do a little bit of a tour of this plate. First of all, pineapple. Here, the shell is resting on a bed of greens, and then spilling out of this cornucopia of the sea, we have tons of little slices here of curried snail. I'm told the proper way to eat this is with rice. First, I'm gonna make a bed of fluffy white jasmine rice, and on top of that, I'm gonna put my curry. I've never seen snail look like this, ever. My first time having curried snail. How do you do that? That's so good. First of all, it just has a load of spices. There's so much flavor. It's so powerful. But the texture is the most impressive part. I have had Mellow Mellow before, and it was really chewy, like really rubbery. But here, he's actually steamed the snail for hours until it's become so soft. It's almost like chewing on an abalone. Somehow, even with all the spice he's caked on here, you can still taste the
things that call us eyes, my mind is occupied. Why am I strong enough? Maybe I want to call the car rider. And the drinks that we drew far from the sky are now in the Passion must have brought something to my head. A woman standing alone reminds me of the sense. There's no need to be alone, no crap no more. Oh, I breath into the wind reminds me of the sense. Why am I strong enough? Maybe I want to call the car rider. And the dreams that we dream far from the sky are now in Nothing must have brought something to me. All things that call us eyes, my mind is occupied. Why am I strong enough? Maybe I want to call the car rider. And the dreams that we drew far from the sky are now in the
real natural flavor of the snail. It's sweet, it has a slight ocean brininess to it. I think the most remarkable part about this snail is that the texture is so similar to an abalone, but there's so much more of it. An abalone this size with 5 pounds of meat, that'd be like $1,000. Also, it doesn't exist. Here you're still getting that same satisfaction of biting into soft but dense meat, but without having to buy an expensive abalone. So that is the Mellow Mellow, the biggest snail that we're gonna eat all day today. But coming up next, the most expensive snail. This bad boy right here weighs in at over 7 pounds. It costs $135 and it's known as the Atlantic Triton's Trumpet. Because once you gut this guy, you put a little hole right here and... Editor, did you put a sound effect in there? You did not. Okay, thank you for leaving me hanging. Appreciate that.
Despite the Atlantic name, this giant gastropod is also common throughout the Pacific and Indian Oceans.
These guys are carnivorous. They have strange, weird, barbed tongues, and they use those tongues to bore into starfish and suck out their insides. Cool. Now this part right here is the heel or the foot. This is what protects the snail when it wants to retreat back into its shell. But this snail is so big and so meaty that you can still touch its flesh. Ugh. It feels so slimy and gooey. The snail is so big, perhaps I can actually pull it out. Oh my God. It's working a little bit. He did not like that at all.
It turns out to lure the Triton snail out, we need a lot of heat. And 2 strong forks. From here, this slimy lump of meat will be transformed into 2 beautiful dishes that I'll be meeting soon.
Every snail we've eaten today has built up to this moment. First, what I call fried snail balls. There's probably like a fancy French word for it, but I don't know that word.
First up, the giant snail meat gets diced into tiny cubes. In a sizzling saucepan, butter melts into a golden pool before joining forces with wheat flour, cream, and milk to form a thick, dreamy mix. Cheese cubes and snail bits jump in next, and everything gets a flavor boost with a sprinkle of pepper, salt, and nutmeg. Once it thickens just right, it's time to roll out. The chef shapes the mix into bite-sized balls, coats them with flour, dunks them in egg, rolls them in breadcrumbs, and sends them for a golden deep fry.
I'm gonna start by holding on to this ball. That's a nice ball. My favorite shape for food and not food. Ooh, this is full of cheese and tons of other ingredients, including diced pieces of snail. I'm gonna put the ball back together and put it in my mouth hole.
I got nothing to say.
It's crunchy, it's cheesy, it tastes very rich. As far as flavor, I'm not getting a bunch of snail flavor. It's more about the snail texture. It's hard, it's kind of rubbery, and it's a unique texture in contrast to this fried food that you're eating. You're getting something crunchy and gooey, and then on the inside, you just got these little bits like eating a rubber tire in a fancy way, like in a 5-star restaurant kind of way. So that is our first course, but here we have something very special. I've had this food before, and I've had it here in Vietnam. So most of the time in Vietnam, they will either stir fry it or serve it sashimi style, but either way, it's really hard and chewy. Here, they've done something different.
First,
I gotta hit the beat.
slice the snail thin. Then drench it in a pesto sauce made from breadcrumbs, parmesan, butter, shallots, basil, peppermint, and wine before a quick 5-minute bake in the oven. On a plate, spread out a creamy bed of potato risotto made from potatoes, cheese, and chicken stock. Gently nestle the baked snails on top. Sprinkle it with microgreens and pickled onions, and finish it off with a fresh basil oil drizzle.
I gotta say, for something that comes out looking so scary and slimy, this looks completely elegant. They've completely transformed it into something gorgeous. I can't wait to try it out. They've done it. They have completely transformed the texture from anything we've tried today. Usually a snail like this, it would just be so rubbery and hard. This is something different. It is still a little bit on the chewy side, but it's much softer. I gotta say, I don't think I've ever had a texture like this before. How do you describe that? Here's something that'll be relatable. It's something between squid and lungs. Is that helping? No? Okay, my bad. As far as the taste go, it's punchy, it's aromatic. You can taste the pesto, you can taste garlic, you can taste shallots. I think this is one of those dishes that would really surprise people. When you see something like this, you can't imagine it being transformed into something so high-end, so premium, and so beautiful looking. From beast to beauty. Today, out of the 11 snails that I tried, I have to say my absolute favorite was the Mellow Mellow. There was something very special about how the chef prepared and steamed that Mellow Mellow for over 2 hours, making it soft, making it tender, and absolutely delicious. So that's what I think. But let me know what you think downstairs in the comments below. Otherwise, that is it for this one. I will see you next time. Peace.
Why'd you let him in?
I have no idea. I'm happy to take this test. I'm strangely calm because when all that crap went down a few months ago,
Yeah, in all honesty, Barstool does a better job of the wrestling business than the current wrestling business does, because at least they don't sit there and break kayfabe.
collect contacts with him. And honestly, I thought, like, man, nothing had happened since. It's like, this is strangely quiet how it went away. So, but
on two
I
of
was
his fingers.
okay, whatever, bring it on.
This is so good.
My favorite big booty Latina. I love it.
That's it right there. So one more time, just so everybody kind of people that are coming in here, this is why I decided to play that, because this was Alex Stein. This is a video that we're seeing today. This is some of Alex Stein's best work, which speaks volumes because Alex has had a lot of great work, but this is some of his best work right here.
Welcome. Introduce yourself. Go ahead.
My name's Alex Stein. I'm considered one of the sexiest men in conservative politics. And one thing I want to say, a lot of people are going to hear my testimony. You're going to say you're anti-LGBTQ. I want to say that's impossible because I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. So obviously I have a lot of gay pride. But, you know, a lot of conservatives like yourself, you want to outlaw transgenders in women's sports. I disagree. I like transgenders in women's sports because you can gamble on them and win money. And I won so much money on Leah Thomas's propeller in that pool. I almost turned DraftKings, into draft queens. And, you know, I actually like transgenders in the military, too, because, first of all, transgenders are some of the meanest people on planet Earth. So they make a good soldier, don't you think? And then, you know, second of all, transgenders love to do mass shootings. So, you know, that's perfect for a military veteran. And then on top of that, the suicide rate is incredibly high among transgender people. So we could just use them like the Taliban has suicide bombers. Maybe you guys can actually, you know, if you commit suicide, actually help us in the battlefield. So that would be good. So I think we need transgenders in the military and women's sports. Now, when we come to the bathroom bill, though, this is an asymmetrical problem because, first of all, no dude cares if, like, a bisexual woman comes in there and tries to use, like, a pee funnel. You know, some lady boy comes in there, some, you know, stud comes in there, wants to pee in a urinal. No guy's going to be threatened by, you know, a trans woman. But we don't want these gargoyles in a dress, you know, some chick with a dick coming in there and trying to pee or poop next to my girlfriend, because that's disgusting. And well, I was going to say something. Listen, I have my First Amendment right. Let me just speak. So we're sick of these transgenders trying to invade women's personal spaces. These people have autogynephilia. They're sexual perverts, and they actually get satisfaction from going there and looking under a stall. So these are mentally ill people that are on hormones, that are on all kinds of pills. They're impulsive, and they do not belong in a women's restroom. So if some of you lesbians want to come in and pee next to me, you're more than welcome. So we just don't let the chicks with dicks in the women's room, and you guys are all welcome in the men's room. I think that works.
Thank you very much. Well,
Man, he got all of that in 2 minutes. This dude is a pro. Like, Alex is insanely good at this. It's really amazing. So shout out to Alex Stein. But that's why we were watching all that. So good stuff indeed. Prime time 99. Too tired for 10 says, glad to be in the snake pit today. Got murdered by my doc today. RFA neck. Let's see, pitiful. But among friends, Saul Alberta wants to secede, and they already reached out to Trump. Not sure how true, though. I don't think that's true. I mean, I've heard discussions about Alberta, but I don't know if they've actually reached out to Trump for that. I mean, again, I could be wrong. There's so much information right now. So I have not heard anything from that perspective, though. So if there's anything on that, though, I haven't seen anything. There's a lot of rumors about that, but that's about it. Let's see here. Soundwave Superior says, can't believe I found this community because I saw Craig in a thumbnail for Tuesday's main event and was like, it's a screw attack guy. 199 praise Ara. Thank you, Soundwave. Hey, man, everybody's got their way of how they found this little corner of the internet, and it's pretty awesome. It's
Let's get into it today. Market uncertainty. Is this a rally? Can you trust it? Today we'll break it down for you. My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back into the show. Let's get started. I do want to thank our sponsor, and that is Tangem. This is where you guys can get into self-custody. This is a hardware wallet that looks like a credit card, works with your phone, very easy to set up. And if you go over to tangem.com, you can go in and set this up and also get into a whole process of self-custody. And the cool thing here, it only takes like 3 minutes to set this thing up. Very easy to get started. Use our link down below. It's going to give you some additional discounts, and you guys can start your own self-custody journey. Let's go over to the headlines. And of course, this is what's happening this week. We've got the S&P Global Services, the PMI data coming in today. We also have the ISM. This is non-manufacturing PMI data. This comes on Tuesday. 10-year note auction on Wednesday. Jobless claims data on Thursday, which I'm not sure I'm going to trust that because of whatever thing has been going on. We'll talk about that. Total of 5 Fed speaker events this week, and then also 20% of the S&P 500 are going to be able to report earnings. So that'll give us some indication of how it's been going around the economy and just in general, because I think a lot of people are worried about what inflation is going to be doing over the next few months, and also whether or not the Fed is going to cut rates. One of the biggest things that was happening last week and over the weekend, you can't make this up, Trump literally just fired the person who revised the jobs report numbers down by 258,000, and he's questioning whether or not the July numbers are real, calling the 73,000 numbers a shock, only to conclude that Powell should be gone. Point being here, guys, is you probably know my position on this. I've never trusted these job numbers. They're always revised, and it doesn't matter if it's Trump's administration, the Biden administration, all of them. I don't trust them because I talk to so many CEOs, and they always tell me the alternate of what's happening. I've mentioned this so many times on the channel, is that these numbers are always much worse than what we're seeing. So the real question is, how does this affect the market? I put out a tweet this weekend. 73,000 jobs added in July, huge bad side revisions in May and June. Chamath kind of called it. This is a very severe job decline. And when you have these kinds of jobs declining in a market that is already under pressure, unlikely that we may not even be getting real inflation data, it's possible that we could see a 100 basis points cut coming in September. So things have really flipped around just because I think the jobs data was so bad and so inaccurate that now everybody's starting to question that very issue. I want to go to a clip real quick because this is talking about the BLS commissioner and should they have gotten fired. Take a look.
The BLS commissioner has no say over what the numbers are, has no opportunity ever to alter the numbers. Grosjean is part of a broad group of economists roundly criticizing the president's assertion that the numbers were, quote, rigged for political reasons. Friends of BLS issued a statement saying, quote, this rationale for firing Dr. McIntyre is without merit and undermines the credibility of federal economic statistics that are a cornerstone of intelligent economic decision-making by businesses, families, and policymakers.
Is anybody shocked that the president would react this way? Everybody out there understands the way he works. Understands the way he interacts.
I'm shocked.
Okay, well, good. You're about the only guy in America because the market's not shocked.
It's shocking. It is shocking, Rick.
Give me
it's
a break.
Absolutely shocking.
You're too touchy-feely. You know what I care about? I care about markets.
My concern, Rick, is you fire somebody because you don't like the numbers. How much trust will the people have in the numbers when the next person is appointed and in charge, unless there's a big change?
Oh, let me tell you something, CNBC. I don't think that Americans have trust in the numbers to start with. So the fact that we already have a broken system that's reporting these inaccuracies probably goes to the point that all these commissioners and all these bureaucrats should be looked at. Why are they not fixing a system that's reporting inaccurate data? If you continue to get inaccurate data, why would you not go to the source and start to revamp that? That's the problem that is out there. President Trump announced the new Fed governor, or will be announcing the new Fed governor, and also a BLS chief this week. I don't necessarily agree with the fact that Trump is going to use his, apprentice model of you're fired and just flip around and get the next person in there, because they're probably going to report bad data too, because I think the system itself is the problem. And this is a factor that's going to be going for quite some time, guys. The good thing is that you as business owners and investors, just ask around, ask and see what's happening in your own community. Usually you can tell where the market is leaning without a lot of this, secondary speak that seems to be coming from these major outlets. We also have a clip here that kind of shows into whether or not Trump even had the right to do this. Take a look.
First of all, it is very, very difficult to tamper or to interfere with these numbers. As has been mentioned before, hundreds of people have their hands on these numbers as they are being formulated from the state level up. And the Monday before the Friday of the first Friday of the month that these numbers are released, the process is very much locked down. BLS is very concerned about the security of these numbers. So only about 40 people, but 40 is still a lot toward the end in the last week, that deal with these numbers. If anything were to be awry, I think one of these 40 people in the final analysis would have spoken up. So it's highly unlikely. And given how much the BLS looks toward the integrity of these numbers, that these numbers are not right. Having said that, I will say the president does have the right to appoint and replace whoever he wants to, because this is the commissioner of the BLS is a political appointee. I hope that the new person, whoever it will be someone who respects the integrity and the reputation of the institution.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, the integrity and reputation of the institution so far over the past several years has been inaccurate. So hopefully they'll get in there and try to figure out what's wrong. This, of course, is Elizabeth Warren. She's taking it on the other side and simply saying, hey, this is all on the Republicans. Take a look.
Give data that makes the president happy. That's certainly the message he's communicating. And when that happens, who believes the data? And a month from now, let's just say good data come out. How many people have to discount that?
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen.
According to what we have discovered from the Holy Fathers, who have discovered these things because of the great grace that they received, and because of the great experience that they had, there are three attributes to the soul. We call the logistikon, metaphysikon, and timitikon, which means the irascible, the reasonable or rational, and the desirable. And these three attributes of the soul have all been twisted and manipulated and distorted after the fall. And people, unfortunately, as Simakari says, live their lives without even realizing how much of an influence of this distortion has affected us. And we go about our days as if everything is normal, and we have no fear of God, thinking mayhaps we've been fooled by the evil demons, and that perhaps we are working in conjunction with the demonic spirits, and not even fearing for our salvation. This is what we find continuously throughout the Holy Scriptures with regards to the faithful and regards to those who are not faithful. Those who rejected Christ were deep. We're deep in the fall. And as we should know from experience, when we give into a type of a temptation, give into a certain type of a thought, even one small little thought can end up becoming an avalanche. It can turn into a domino effect, and things could become very ugly. And we have to catch ourselves as soon as possible. And unfortunately, we have these proclivities, and we must understand that there are these dangers, and we must understand that we are in need of help, which is what essentially humbles us, because, as we know, pride makes us blind. So these three parts of the soul, as we say, the reasonable, the irascible, and the desirable, are attributes which have been affected. There is a dispassionate anger. Can you imagine? This is very difficult for us to understand, because it's very difficult for us to separate anger from passion. And there is a dispassionate desire, which is very difficult for us to understand, because when we think about desires, we think about desires of the flesh and desires of worldly things. In the reasonable part of the soul, we think, well, we're supposed to be reasonable, and we are supposed to be the rational flock of Christ, the reasonable flock of Christ. But you have no idea how deep the poison of demonic deception is within the race of mankind. This is why we have so many problems. This is why we have all of the disarray we see everywhere around us throughout the world. Problems everywhere, problems with families and work, and problems at school, problems everywhere in this fallen world. And so we must always measure things and think very carefully before we judge. And it's a very bad sign if we are impulsive and we don't think things through, not only from a spiritual point of view, but even from a reasonable, rational point of view. We must be very careful to be responsible thinkers, so that with much prayer, we hope that by the grace of God, we will have illumined thoughts, thoughts which will justify us, for we are not justified because of our sins, but the Lord justifies us. And we see these examples, and we see an example today in the gospel passage, where the Lord now heals somebody sick of the palsy. But the Lord starts by trying to stress, and this is the key, trying to stress the spiritual things. And so he says to him, after seeing their faith, not just the faith of the man sick of the palsy, but the faith of those who are helping him. For we can also be helped quite a bit by those who love us and are trying to help us, if they're spiritual people, if they're people who are thinking spiritually, rather, if there are people who are pious. And he starts off by saying, be of good cheer, thy sins are forgiven thee. And can there be a greater gift than the forgiveness of sins? Because this means salvation is yours. Essentially, this is what that means. And what can be a greater gift than salvation? Whereas St. Seraphim of Sarov says, if you only had a touch, a glimpse of that salvation, or of that eternal damnation, you would be willing to stay in a room full of worms for a very long time, just so that you can get to your desired salvation. But what happens is we don't have focus, and we are forgetful, and we live here as if we're here. We don't even realize the most obvious, that we're going to die. We're going to leave this life. So as the Lord says, be of good cheer, thy sins are forgiven thee. Of course, the Lord is not a liar. The Lord gives gifts, and this person is forgiven. But what happens is, the devil is always working around with people. He gets malicious when he sees the work of the Lord. And so he goes around, even as the Holy Nectar Fathers teaches. He goes around because the devil is having warfare with that specific person who received the healing. And he'll go around to his people, those people who will be very easily affected, the easy targets. And they will tempt that person against the person who has received benefit. But more essentially, their warfare, of course, is against Christ. The malice of the demons against us is very great, because they don't want our salvation. They receive no benefit at all from anything in their battle against us. But they're so darkened, and just think of a entity, a being who is totally separate from God, how dark and how messed up that mind is. They cannot think clearly at all. And so this is what happens here, particularly with the scribes. The scribes start having thoughts. It starts with the thoughts. And they say, and they presume, and they assume. This man blasphemeth. They are now the judges. They are judging God. And they judge the servants of God. And they judge the Lord, and they say, this man blasphemeth. And this is the beginning of their domino effect, and this is the beginning of the avalanche. And the Lord says, why do such thoughts arise in your hearts? For the thoughts arise in the hearts, which is the center of the soul. Why do such thoughts arise in your hearts? What's easier to say? Thy sins be forgiven thee? Or, arise, be healed of your infirmity. And the Lord is stressing here that this is the purpose of his coming. His coming is so that he can fix the broken man, which is basically everybody to a greater, to a lesser degree. And we have all these people that are spiritually shallow, that throw up their hands at one small little temptation, say, oh, I can't do it, I can't change. What are you talking about? You totally lost the whole purpose, the whole understanding of what we're doing here. We're trying to walk towards our salvation, and there will be slips and there will be falls. But we must get up, and we must never give up. If we want to remain in our deluded state, it just gets darker and darker to the point where we start rejecting God, who is right in front of us. We can't see him. And we say, no, I don't want to deal with you, Jesus. I don't like this whole teaching of picking up your cross. I'm not interested in this suffering. But the Christian suffers, and the Christian must be humble, and the Christian must be Christ-like. And so these people started their downfall with these thoughts, simple thoughts. This man is blaspheming, but in the end it turns into total rejection. And so, by the time the Lord raised the man, they were too dark. Any rational, reasonable person would say, okay, well, perhaps there's something to this person, this Jesus Christ, since after saying, thy sins are forgiven thee, he actually heals this person physically. That should verify his words. But these people, because they had these thoughts, they were too dark to even accept the miracle. By the time the miracle happened, they were not able. They were not able to accept it. They were stuck and plunged in resentment because he rebuked them. They did not want to deal with their consciences. They did not want to deal with this teaching of the Lord Jesus Christ. They wanted a comfortable God, a God that would give them comfort, a God that would make things easy. But we see in the lives of the saints, it is not so. Think carefully how they were glorified. When we hear the lives of the saints, there are so many people that are so disconnected, they just think it's some nice story. And we don't connect with it. We don't think, well, how can I apply things? How can I apply this life of this saint to me? And what comes to mind today is the beautiful example of Joseph the All-Comely, who became the ruler of Egypt. Think very carefully now of what happened to Joseph the All-Comely. Joseph the All-Comely was put in a pit. He was sold by his brothers. And he did not huff and puff. And he did not say, I demand my rights. And he did not say, do you know who I am? I'm the beloved of my Father, the most beloved of my Father. But as a believer, he knew and applied the words of St. Isaac the Syrian, that we must see God's providence in our lives and that God sends certain things to us for our benefit. And as we heard in the reading of the Vergetinos the other day, concerning humility, we see the example, the great example of how humility raises one on high. And not just monastics, but also lay people are supposed to be working towards at least a certain amount of dispassion. We will not reach dispassionate as much as the saints did. But we are supposed to work towards that goal. And how do we reach this dispassion? How do we receive the vision of God? And how do we finally have peace in our souls? Joseph the Alcalde took the right path. He accepted it. And this was a really, really very strong pill to swallow. And he lost absolutely everything. And he was sent to the land of Egypt to become a slave. And we must now look under these layers of the didactic things that we see here externally and think internally, spiritually, what is the meaning of all this? For somebody to tread along the path of dispassion, we have to go through things like Joseph the Alcalde did. That was actually a swift and blessed shortcut that he took. He was so humble. Think about the opposite scenario of the